you even related by blood? If you're not, you're just a stranger. Strangers aren't welcomed in our home. When I went to my son's fiance's house for a family meeting, that's what the fiance bluntly said. Even Leo is bothered by you. We don't want any further involvement, so please leave. With those words, she closed the front door on me. I was too shocked to move. My son is my husband's child from a previous relationship. After my husband passed away at a young age, I devoted myself to raising my son. We never really fought, and I thought we had a good relationship. The fiance's words pierced my heart. I couldn't believe she thought I was a nuisance. For my son's sake, I decided to cut off contact myself. However, I later witnessed a shocking scene that revealed the true nature of the fiancé and her family. I knew I had to tell my son, but worried that reaching out might bother him. While I was torn about what to do, my son came to visit. This led to even more secrets about his fiancé's family being exposed. I'm Wendy, 71 years old. Now I live alone. I first married at 25, but he was a womanizer. Every day was filled with endless arguments. The marriage fell apart after 2 years. Since then, I focused solely on my work, avoiding love. Dad, concerned about my solitary life, introduced me to a man. The man was my future husband.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Simon. I owe a lot to your father. Haha, we just met at a golf range, but hit it off. He's a great guy. I think you two will get along. Ha 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 ha.
Dad said with a hearty laugh, introducing someone he barely knew from a golf range. What was he thinking? Could this guy be trouble? Ignoring my skepticism, Simon was all smiles. Turns out he was a doctor. Being a doctor, you must be popular with the ladies. Why are you still single?
Well, actually, I have a child.
Oh. Taken aback, I watched him scratch his cheek and give a wry smile.
My ex-wife was only after money. She neglected our child, preferring to party. I divorced her and took custody of the child.
I'm sorry, that was thoughtless of me.
No, don't worry. I'm not hiding anything. It's just having a child tends to be a deal breaker for many.
Oh, he sighed, looking troubled.
That's not the only issue. Some women approach me for money, trying to get close to my son.
That's tough. How old is your son?
He's 5, full of energy and hardly ever sleeps.
My husband chuckled. He seemed like such a good person. Our conversations were enjoyable, and I felt at ease with him. Gradually, I found myself drawn to him, and we started dating. His son Leo barely spoke to me at first. He hardly responded when I tried to talk to him. His preschool friends recently pointed out that he doesn't have a mom. He's been down since then. I see. Kids can be cruel sometimes. Perhaps the friends just stated the fact that he had no mom. Despite the harsh reality, my son was deeply hurt. I tried my best to cheer him up, engaging him in conversation. Leo, want to play together?
Sure.
Nothing seemed to work, and I felt my heart breaking. Never having had a child before, I didn't know how to connect with a child. Despite several attempts, his attitude remained unchanged. I almost gave up, thinking he might never accept me. Then, one day, I was making lunch and decided to prepare a kid-friendly meal. Inspired by the kids' meals at family restaurants, I made a fun plate with an omelet, sausages cut into octopus shapes, and Neapolitan spaghetti, and even planted a little frog on it. At that time, I didn't know my son's likes or dislikes, so I figured offering a variety would surely have something he'd eat. However, when he saw the lunch I made, his eyes lit up. Wow, this looks like a restaurant. Really? I'm so glad. Can I eat all of this? Of course, I made it just for you, Leo. Yay! For the first time, I saw him acting his age, and I was close to tears. After that, he started talking to me a lot, as if his previous attitude had been a lie. When my son started elementary school, I got married to my husband. His son welcomed me, treating me like a real mother. On holidays, we'd go camping or taking trips, filling our days with joy. But those happy days didn't last long. On his way to work, my husband was hit by a drunk driver and passed away. We had only been married for 3 years. It was supposed to be just the beginning, but it turned into a sudden farewell. I couldn't accept the reality. He was so looking forward to our son's growth. Why did this have to happen so soon? I couldn't stop the tears, clinging to my cold husband. As I cried, someone came beside me. Dad, it was my son. He stared blankly at the white-covered body of my husband. The nurses desperately tried to stop us from seeing the severely damaged body from the accident. Seeing my son struggling to accept the reality, I suddenly became calm. It wasn't the time to cry. I am a mom. I have to be there for my child. Wiping my tears, I hugged my son tightly. As he began to grasp the situation, he cried loudly in my arms. My husband was a doctor, and since he earned well, I had quit my job, but I quickly started job hunting. Luckily, having graduated from a business school and holding a CPA certificate, I managed to get a job in accounting. My days were busy with housework, childcare, and work. But watching my son grow was a joy, and I raised him with all the love I had, for both me and his late father. Then my son became a doctor.
I want to save people like Dad did.
He was interested in emergency medicine and worked in an emergency room at a graduate school hospital. He would visit home sometimes, but he often got called back to the hospital, looking very busy. I worried about his future, wondering if he ever even had time for love or marriage. Then one day he called, telling me he wanted to get married. He was dating a woman who worked as a medical secretary at the same hospital, and it turned out she lived nearby.
Hey, I told Emily's family that I want to have a family meeting. They suggested we do it at their place. Mom, you quit your job and you have some time, right? I want you to go there.
Sure. I'm marrying into their family, so it's only right that we make the effort to visit them.
That's a relief to hear. I'd like to join you, but I need to stop by work that day. Can you go ahead and I'll follow later?
Oh dear, that's tough. I'm fine with it, but don't push yourself too hard, Leo.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
On the day, I arrived at the address my son had given me, with a gift in hand. When I rang the doorbell, a beautiful woman answered. Hello, thank you for inviting me. I'm Leo's mom. As I greeted her, she glared at me, astonishingly. You're Wendy, right? I've heard about you. Sorry to say this, but can you leave? What? I was momentarily lost for words. As I stood there confused, her parents came out of the house.
So you're Leo's mom. You don't look anything like him.
Well, of course not. They're not related by blood, right? What are you talking about? Leo told us you're not his real mom. That's right, isn't it? That's true, but I've always thought of us as a real family. Before I could finish, the fiancé interrupted me. So you're not related by blood. Then you're a stranger, right? Strangers shouldn't enter our house. I was taken aback by the sudden shouting. I haven't done anything that would make me angry. Why was I being treated like this? The three of them looked at me as if I were something filthy. Leo said it too. You're not his real mom, but you keep acting like one, and it's bothersome. You keep calling, and it's annoying. But when I called the other day, he didn't mention any of this. That's just because Leo is too kind. You should realize it yourself. No, that can't be true. That's how it is. So please leave. We don't want anything to do with you anymore. With that, they closed the front door on me. I stood there in shock for a while. I had never even had an argument with my son. Had he always found me bothersome? Indeed, I used to worry whether he was eating properly, and would deliver him homemade side dishes on my days off. He always thanked me. But was it all a lie? I don't remember much after that. Somehow, I managed to get home, but couldn't do anything for a while. I had imagined a future where my son got married, and I would sometimes see my grandchildren. But now, my hopes were shattered. Still, I wished for my son's happiness more than anything. If he really thought of me as a nuisance, then I would stop reaching out to him. And so I stopped contacting my son. It was a week later. On my way to the supermarket for dinner shopping, I saw something shocking. My son's fiance's parents were being confronted by a tough-looking man.
Hey, you're short on cash. I'm sorry, we'll pay you the rest next month. How you gonna repay it, you jobless gambling addicts? Our daughter's marrying a doctor from a big hospital.
Yeah, he's always working and seems to have a lot of money, so it'll be fine. I couldn't hide my shock at their words, talking as if they were counting on my son's money from the start. I wonder if my son knows about this.
All right, I don't care as long as I get my money back. Remember, if it's even slightly short.
They were repeatedly trying to calm down a tough-looking man, but that didn't matter to me. I couldn't stand the thought of them using the money my son worked so hard to earn. Anger welled up in me, and I confronted them. Wait a minute. Is what you just said true?
Whoa, what do you want? We told you to stay out of it.
I can't just ignore this. You're planning to use my son's money to pay off your debts. I have to tell him. As I reached for my mobile phone, they panicked and stopped me. Then they snatched my phone away, laughing. Really? You know Leo. He's so busy with work that he can't do anything else. He even stayed overnight at work yesterday. Imagine how he'd feel getting a call from a non-biological mom like you at this hour.
It's annoying, right? Interrupting his work for no urgent matter.
That's... My heart pounded with tension. If you care about your son, cut ties with us. A woman like you is just in the way.
If you don't want to be hated by your son anymore, stop contacting him.
They laughed crudely. I felt frustrated at my inability to respond. I truly cared about my son. I thought of him as family and wanted nothing but happiness for him. But their remarks about blood ties shook me. I had never had my own child. Had I been a good parent? I felt my confidence waver, as if the ground was shaking beneath me. In the end, I couldn't tell my son anything. A month later, the doorbell rang, and there was my son, Leo. Leo, what are you doing here?
Mom, sorry. There's something I really need to talk to you about.
Come in first. I was sweating from surprise and tension. I never felt this awkward just talking to my son. I served coffee, and he pulled an envelope out of his bag.
Emily, my fiancée, she said since you refused to attend our wedding, there's no need to send an invitation, but I still wanted to give it to you. Are you free on the wedding day?
What? I didn't even know there was a wedding.
What do you mean?
My son looked at me puzzled. I decided to tell him everything. How I was turned away when I went to greet them. How they cut ties with me. About his fiance's parents' debts. After hearing everything, my son held my hand.
I've never once thought of you as a burden, Mom. It's all lies.
Leo, I'm sorry. I doubted whether I'd been a good mom and believed what they said.
Mom, you're a family. Blood doesn't matter. But I need to check on Emily's family. Sorry, I have to go, Mom.
Take care. My son seemed to ponder something, then hurriedly left the house. He's always been quick to act on his decisions. Something must be up this time, too. I watched my son leave with a mix of confusion and concern. A month later, he suddenly showed up at home again. What's going on? Why are you carrying such a big bag?
I left home. I'm sorry, but can I stay here for a while?
Sure, but did you talk to Emily about this?
Huh? I left a note. She should understand the situation.
A note?
Yeah, I wrote that I'm calling off the marriage.
His calm demeanor left me in shock. I never imagined him coming back home, especially when he was about to get married. It's fine by me.
Thanks, I'll use my old room.
He carried his belongings to his old room. As I was preparing dinner, there was a loud knocking at the front door. I opened it to find his fiancée, Emily, and her parents glaring furiously. "It's all your fault." "What do you mean, showing up unannounced like this?" "Because of you, Leo left. What are you going to do about it?" Emily's shouting was followed by her dad's angry voice.
"Did you tell them about us, you wicked woman?"
I wasn't scared at all by their red-faced fury. It seemed almost comical. "That's right, I told them. You were trying to make my son pay off your debts, and you seem to love gambling too. Are you marrying him just for his money?" "Of course. Leo hardly spends any money since he's always working. It's my right to spend as I please as his fiancée. I can't let my son marry someone who's so openly after his money. Could you please leave?" "Why should I listen to you? I did you a favor by agreeing to marry your boring, charmless son. He's got nothing but his money." "Is that so?" I spoke towards the living room, and my son appeared. Seeing him, the three turned pale. "What? Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be at work today, huh?"
"I took the day off. More importantly, I heard everything."
No, I mean, that was all lies."
"Really? Then these photos are lies too."
He handed Emily dozens of photos. They showed her entering a hotel with an unknown man from various angles.
"Looks like you met him several times while I was at work."
"This is different. He's just a friend." Emily was flustered, her words stumbling.
"A just friend you go to hotels with every time, huh?"
"No, that's not—"
"Emily, what have you done? Leo, I'm so sorry for my foolish daughter. Please forgive us."
"I'm sorry, too. Please forgive us." While Emily turned blue and trembled, her parents apologized. My son handed them something that looked like an investigation report.
"I'm sorry, but I had a detective look into both of you. You asked for a loan before, saying your business was about to fail, but the report says there's no such business. What's that about?" Well, the business did fail eventually." "And you've been gambling daily since then?" "Yeah, due to the shock and stress. But the report says you've been gambling for years, and you still owe about $100,000, right?"
The two of them went silent, dripping with cold sweat. When I heard about the investigation results from the private detective agency for my son, I couldn't contain my anger. His fiancée had been unfaithful, and her parents were nothing but debtors. I couldn't stand by their audacity, trying to mooch off my son. "I won't allow your marriage with my son." "Wait, Leo, I was wrong. I was just so lonely. You're always working and never home. But I won't do it again. If you hate paying off Dad and Mom's debts, I'll cut ties with them. Please reconsider our marriage."
"How can you say that, cutting ties with your own parents?"
"That's right. What an ungrateful child, Leo. Please lend us some money, just a little. We promise to pay back."
"Yes, just a bit. Lend us $100K. We'll pay it back and do anything you say."
"Lies. How are you going to pay back without a job?"
"Shut up, you."
The fiancé's family started arguing among themselves. My son and I could only stand there dumbfounded. These people only think about themselves. They just want to save their own skin no matter what. Even though they are family, their ugly bickering continued.
"Can you please take your fight outside?"
"Leo, I'm so sorry. How embarrassing. With these mannerless people. But don't worry, I'll cut ties with my parents." My son brushed off the fiancé's pleading hand, as if it were something filthy.
"I have no intention of marrying you, Emily, or having any relationship with your parents."
"What? Why? You said you loved me. How could you?" The fiancé, still thinking there was a chance, gave me a headache. My son sighed exaggeratedly.
"Who would marry someone with no appeal other than money? Besides, you'll be paying for the infidelity and all the wedding cancellation fees."
"What? I didn't know about that. I can't pay that."
"Not my problem. I've already consulted a lawyer. Contact them for any further communication."
"Please forgive me. I was wrong. I've even quit my job. I can't afford any compensation or cancellation fees for the wedding." The fiancé began to sob and apologize profusely. The sight was almost comical. If only she hadn't cheated in the first place.
I don't want to see your face anymore. If you don't leave, I'll call the police.
The fiancé in tears must have realized it was over. She just kept crying. But crying doesn't excuse her. She looked up at her parents. Dad, Mom, lend me the money for the compensation and wedding cancellation?
We don't have that kind of money.
Our daughter is in trouble. Can't you do something?
There's nothing I can do.
That's right. If you hadn't cheated, things might have worked out. What a foolish child. And so the fiancé's family started arguing again. My son and I just held our heads, watching their absurd conversation. How can you say that? You are the ones who borrowed money from Leo.
That's right. We have our own debts, so we can't afford to take care of someone else's problem. Rather, you should pay off our debts.
Why should I? Exactly. Emily is still young enough to work, but we're over 60, you know.
That's right. Earn money for your parents. We're family, aren't we?
Don't be ridiculous. You're no longer parents or anything to me. Stay out of my life for good. Frustrated with his constantly quarreling fiancé and her parents, our son finally forced them out of our house. They cried and apologized, but it was too late. What a spectacle it had been. They stormed in like a tempest, causing a ruckus, and then disappeared without even an apology. Even if you're related by blood, some families just don't work out.
Yeah.
Exhausted, we let out deep sighs. Afterwards, our son broke up with Emily and focused on his job. Emily tried to find work in medical administration, but it seemed difficult. Rumors of their breakup had spread through the hospital and beyond, hampering her chances. Even her parents' gambling issues became known, leading to rejections everywhere. I heard she's juggling part-time jobs and living a poor life. As for her parents, burdened by debts, they apparently fled, leaving their house to become a property for sale. I'm relieved my son is free from such selfish people. Had they married, his hard-earned money would have been squandered. It's not just about money. Building a good relationship with people who only see him as a walking ATM would have been tough. Despite being busy, my son visits home more often. He takes time off to celebrate birthdays. Such a kind and wonderful son. Blood relation doesn't define family. My son is my precious and only family, and I say that with confidence now, and I sincerely wish for his happiness.